Hey everybody, my name is Tiffany, and I want to tell you guys my testimony of my wilderness season. A wilderness season that I'm actually still in. Um, but I promised God if He brought me out of certain situations in 2023 that I would give my testimony. And I told Him I would do it before 2023 is out. Unfortunately, I am a little late with this testimony, but I pray that God hears my heart and forgives me for my tardiness. This is difficult. I was crying before I even turned the camera on because I have never done anything like this before, and well, not like, it's telling the whole world. I've been able to share portions of my testimony, but I just haven't been able to piece it all together, and I'm going to attempt to do that for you guys today with this video. Where do I start? So I want to start when I lost my job back in 2022. I was laid off due to the closure of a particular franchise of a company that I work for. I wasn't super thrilled. However, I knew that that was a opportunity for me. Having that business close, I knew it was an opportunity for me. It was going to kick open a door that otherwise may have taken a lot more effort to pry open. So when that business closed, when my job ended, I stepped out on faith and I opened up my own business. I am a nurse practitioner, and I am a aesthetic injector and wellness nurse practitioner. So I do cosmetic injectables, and I do wellness such as weight loss, peptides, hormone replacement therapy, all of those things for older men and women who need hormonal balance. So that's what I do. I decided that I was going to open up my own business to do just that. And I was super excited, super thrilled, super pumped, and I still am. I still very much love what I do. And I decided to open up my business once that business closed. It started off pretty good. It started off as I would have expected it to be. It's very difficult in this particular field of medicine because it's based on gaining clientele. It's based on your name. It's based on people knowing that you offer these services. And so my job of garnering clientele was pretty difficult in the beginning. I worked with someone that I partnered with, and I was inside of their building with my own business. I did that for a few months, and it turned out not to be such a good idea on my end. I didn't like that particular route, and I prayed and asked God to open a door for me to be inside of my own space. And lo and behold, He provided that. So He provided an area where I could be inside of my own space, and I was just so grateful to God. Like, thank you, God. You have really come through for your girl. You provided a space for me at the price point that I prayed for. He just delivered that. He delivered that, and He is always so faithful. So I moved, and I began to thrive. I began to thrive inside of that new space, and I was super, super, super excited about where my business was headed. So meanwhile, while I am a brand new entrepreneur, trying to figure out this space of being a brand new entrepreneur and growing a business and growing clientele. I am married, and I am married to my husband for 10 years now. We have a daughter together, and we have another daughter from a previous relationship that he was in before he met me. And meanwhile, while my business was going, my husband's business was not doing so well. And so it became heavy for both of us. I became kind of the sole breadwinner at periods during this time, and it was hard. It was hard. We're used to, really having it together. His business had been going for almost 15 years, and the industry that he's in is pretty volatile. He owns a trucking company, and it was not doing well. It was not doing well. Drivers getting into accidents and equipment being damaged, and it just didn't end well. So 2022, the end of 2022, he was really struggling inside of his business. And so I opened up a trucking company so he could have some reprieve from what's happening inside of his business. So I opened up a trucking company so he could run it. And that turned out to be not such a good idea. And I think I can definitely make a whole video about that and how that ended up turning out. And I like to call it my Ishmael. If you guys are familiar with the story of Ishmael, I like to call it my Ishmael. I did things, and I didn't wait on God to provide. And so I try to make my own way, by, with my husband, helping my husband, try to create my own way instead of listening and waiting for God to do what he does, which is provide, which is be Jehovah Jireh. Like I did that on my own, and good lesson, not a good result. So 2023 started, and my husband is trucking, and my business is still doing pretty well. I mean, it's picking up, it's doing great. And the beginning of 2023, his truck that he owned, free and clear, caught on fire. It exploded on the side of the highway, and it was devastating. When you lose equipment, it's like losing an income. So it's just like, somebody going to your job and blowing up the building. Like it's not a good thing. And so that happened, and frustrating to say the least. We had these periods where we felt like, okay, God is gonna make things happen. We're gonna, get on our feet, because, we're not completely on our feet. My business is not, doing 100% of what I was bringing in as an employee. So we're still, we're still struggling a bit. And so we're like, okay, God is gonna come through, and we won't have to, endure the struggle for long. Didn't quite happen that way. And I'm like, okay, this is deep. This is deep. So his truck caught on fire, and I was devastated. I was like, man, like it feels like a blow. And being in the trucking industry for 13 years, you constantly receive blows when it comes to equipment and stuff like that. Things breaking down. It's a hard industry to be in. And just for me, that just felt like, okay, I've been by my husband's side enduring this for years. I'm tired. I'm so tired of this. Like, it's just mentally draining. Like, it's not fun. It's not good. It's just horrible. So, his truck caught on fire. He did own a few trucks at that time, so he, you know, was able to, you know, work his other truck, but it just wasn't, it wasn't the same. The income wasn't the same. He was really down to one truck, and we were still struggling. As far as my business is concerned, it's still doing okay. I'm still doing pretty good. I'm gaining momentum. More clients are coming in, all of those things. And I was juggling a lot. I was trying to help my husband where he fell short and trying to keep the lights and stuff on where I was in my business and all of that. And it was difficult. A lot of prayer, a lot of crying on my knees. But I want you to keep in mind at this time, I'm heavy in my word, and I still am heavy in my word. I had decided back in 2022 that I was going to read the Bible chronologically for the first time ever. I never read it chronologically. I've always, you know, I've read it. I've not read each and every book of the Bible. And I wanted to do that as well. I wanted to read the Bible chronologically, and take my time with it, not like try to get through it within a year. Like, I really wanted God to guide me through his word and teach me more about him. So during this time, I am reading the Bible chronologically for the first time, learning more about the character of God and who he is, and he was teaching me so much. So even with all that going on financially, and spiritually and mentally and even physically, my faith was still high. I still believed God, you know, I still trusted God. I just had to learn how to do that in my action, because when you live a life where you are dependent on yourself and you think that you got it all, it's hard to lean and depend and trust God. It really is. It's difficult. Because you think you're the one. You think that, oh, if I don't make this happen, then it won't happen. Not realizing that it's God's grace. He's the one. The whole time, he's the one that made it happen for you. I realized that, but 2023 is the year that made it abundantly clear that, yeah, you said that God did it all, but in your heart of hearts, you thought it was you. And so God taught me that it wasn't me. And he made the year of complete and total dependence on God. Complete and total dependence. He gave me a Bible verse for that, and I will plug that Bible verse for you guys. That I needed to completely and totally depend on him for the year 2023, and that's what I did. I try not to make a decision without, you know, consulting him first and asking him if he thought that this was something that I was supposed to do. I mean, it was like a baby suckling on his mother's womb. Like, that's exactly how, his mother's bosom, I'm sorry. That's exactly how dependent I was on God. Like, I was so dependent. Like, God, like, please tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. Please tell me. Just listening for him and still in my word, learning about his character, still just wanting to draw nearer to him so I could hear from him about the steps that he wanted me to take for my life. So we're still very much struggling. And my sister, who was out of state, came to live with me here in Florida. That was interesting. It was a blessing and difficult. It was difficult because I was not in a good space in my head, in my life, and I had my sister and her family of 5, 3 children and her husband coming to stay in our home temporarily while they relocated here to Florida. It was just hard for me mentally because I'm in such a space of turmoil in my mind, and now I got to share my space with my family. And so it was difficult. I can't lie, it was difficult just because of where I was mentally. I think if I'd have been in a better place, it wouldn't have been as bad, but mentally I was just drained because everything that was going on, I didn't have any grounding. All I was doing was holding on to God's word by a thread and praying that my business would pick up more, my husband's business would pick up more, and so that we could get the bills off of our back and all of that. In this whole period of time, we had not been able to pay our mortgage. So that was just something that had been looming over my head, like, oh my God, like, we're gonna foreclose, like, this is not good. Like, it was hard. So while all that's going on for me, my sister comes. And my sister comes, and I think in God's sovereignty and his grace, it was a difficult transition for all of us, but we made it work, and that's another story. When my sister came, my mother, who had been sick for a while with some disabilities, became ill suddenly, more ill than what she had already been. My mother suffered from seizure disorder from a brain tumor that she had when she was 16 years old, and she became ill out of nowhere. And the funny part about her being ill was that while she was sick in another state, I'm in too much of a situation to really go visit her from Florida to Indiana. While she was ill, I'm in the book of Job. I am reading the book of Job and feeling Job's story of losing everything and his cries and his pleas to God and him still holding fast. And he, the book of Job is just so inspiring. It is amazing, and I definitely can dive a little bit deeper into the book of Job in a different video. This video is gonna be, I'm trying not to make it too long, but I know it's gonna be a little long. But yeah, the book of Job. So while my mom is sick and not doing well, I'm in the book of Job. My mom's health is waxing and waning. It looks like that she's going to recover. Then all of a sudden she has to go back to the hospital. She went back to the hospital, and a few days after being admitted to the hospital, she passed away. I remember the night she passed away, I was feeling so heavy. I had a spirit of heaviness. I was just like, God, like, I need this pressure to let up. I need everything to let up. And I was on my knees crying that God would release the pressure, that he would do something, that he would release the pressure from what was happening in my life. And I got a phone call. I got a phone call from the doctor in Indiana that my mom was dead, or she was dying. She was dying, and that there was nothing that they could do, that they had done everything. And it crushed me. It crushed me. It crushed me. Me and my mom's relationship was complex, and I think it should be shared in a different video, but me and my mom's relationship was complex, but I loved her. I loved her dearly, and I hate that she had to go so young, and she had so many things. So many what we call comorbidities in her last days, so many issues with her health, and that she couldn't be in a more healthy state. But my mother passed away, and I had to go to Indiana to plan a funeral in the midst of financial chaos and not so great marriage. My marriage is falling apart as well due to the stress and strain of what's happening. I'm having to go bury my mom. So God gave me grace in that. He gave us grace. He gave me my brother and my sister grace, who were able to plan a beautiful homegoing service for my mom, and we were able to put her to rest beautifully. And I'm so grateful to God for that, for showing me grace inside of that, for showing my family grace inside of that. The homegoing couldn't have went more beautifully, and he was there. His presence was there during that time. He really held my hand during that. That's the kind of God that we serve. It's the kind of God that I serve. And even though I'm going through all of this, he was still holding my hand. So I'm still fighting for, relief, reprieve. God, send me the clients. God, expand my business, enlarge my territory, all of these things. And I just feel like I was being fed manna. God was gracious enough to give me just enough. He was giving me manna. I knew I was in the season of wilderness, and so I knew I could expect manna, but I was just wanting it to end. I just wanted to end because I'm still in it, but I knew that I was being fed manna. And so my thoughts were not to complain, to just draw closer. I wanted to just draw closer. I knew that there was the solution. Like, God is not going to pull me out sooner than what I need to be, and I just need to draw closer. In August of 2023, I started fasting with Covered by God Ministries with Tiffany Montgomery, and it was life-changing. It changed my spiritual life, and it just drew me even nearer. Covered by God is a fasting and praying ministry, and in August I began to fast and pray. When I began to fast and pray, the attacks came harder. I was attacked by the enemy in ways that just made me do nothing. I couldn't do anything but laugh at that point. I'm like, okay, enemy, what you got? I'm driving in the car. Our instructions for the fast, one of the last days of the fast, is to give to the poor. So one day I'm taking my sister to work, and I'm picking her up from work, and I stop and I gave this homeless man some money. And I'm only telling y'all this because it relates to how the enemy was attacking me. And I think that it's important to know that when you are really trying to follow God's way and his will, that the enemy will attack you. He'll try to discourage you. He'll try to bring you down. He'll try to stop you. He'll try to distract you. He'll do anything to try to stop you. I was given to the poor, and this man's reaction from giving to him, he was just full of praise, which was shocking. He said, I know my God is real. I know my God is real. Thank you, God. I know my God is real. And I was so happy because I was like, okay, God, I'm really drawing near to you. I'm really doing what you're asking me to do. Like, I'm gonna do well. I'm going to see your promises. I'm going to see the promised land. I am going to see the land of milk and honey. I'm going to do that because everything that I'm doing, I believe that you're guiding me to and through it. So when I left after giving to the homeless man, I got on the highway, and immediately somebody hits my car. Somebody hits my car and runs. So she hit and runs. So I'm like complete shock, but I take after her. I chase her because I'm like, you hit and ran. So, it was a small, like maybe like 200-meter chase. And so I chased her down. And we both pulled over. She pulled over, and she immediately started cussing me out. Like, she cussed me out. Cussed me clean out. She's the one that hit me, but she cussed me out. She told me I wasn't gonna get a dime, called me ugly, just was like going in on me. And I'm just like, I'm irritated, I'm angry. Like, you know what? I don't want to say that I was angry. I was irritated, but really, there was this inner joy. Like, enemy, I see you. You know what I mean? Like, I see you. There was this inner joy, like, oh, I must be doing something right here. Like, if you're gonna attack me like this, like, oh yeah, I definitely must be doing something right here, because for this to be like somebody hits me or whatever, and now I get cussed out, and this woman was like, looked completely deranged. You know how people like kind of like shapeshift, like, you know, they have a spirit of whatever in them, spirit of anger, whatever. I could definitely see it all over her face. I'm like, she didn't even realize like the enemy sent her, you know. And she basically took off, and you know, that story is what it is. It just, you know, I just wanted to give y'all an example of how the enemy tries to attack you when you're trying to do the right thing. And so not only was I getting attacked in person, I was also having crazy dreams. We could do a whole video about dreams too, but crazy dream attacks as well. And just an active spiritual life. And so I knew that God was walking with me, but the manna hadn't stopped. The promised land hadn't got here yet. And so I'm just like, you know, continuing to pray, continuing to fasting every month, continuing to do that throughout the entire year. At the end of the year, we do the Year of the Bride fast, which I desperately needed to do. I desperately needed to do it because my marriage was, or is, or I shouldn't say is, my marriage was in shambles. We're currently working through, but my marriage was in shambles. So I did the Year of the Bride fast for 21 days with the Covered by God ministry, and it was amazing. It was amazing. The tearing down of strongholds, the breaking generational curses, it was just amazing. And I thank God that I was able to do that fast, and that He blessed me to come into contact with that ministry so I could do that fast. For 2023, what I was able to take away is that God will provide the manna. When you are in the wilderness, He will provide the streams of water. When you're in the wilderness, He will do all of those things. One of my biggest concerns was my house and my mortgage, and God made a way for me to be able to recover the terms of my mortgage, and he's still working, you know, even though it's already done, right? Like, it's already done. What God is doing is already done. I just have to walk in it. So God has made a way for me to keep my house in this season, and He is definitely improving my marriage. There's been so much improvement in my marriage, so much. And God has just made a way. He's just done the things that I would have never done had I not went through this wilderness season. It's necessary, difficult, but necessary. And like I said, I feel like I'm still walking in it. I can see the promised land just over the river. I know I'm close. I know I'm close to coming out. I know I'm close. And I know God is going to make a way for me to really just cross over to Jordan, right over into to the promised land. I know he is. But I just want to give you hope. I want to encourage you that if you are in a wilderness season, God has not left you. He has not left you. He loves you. You just have to trust him. You have to trust that he is there. One thing that is very important for you to do is take complaining out of your mouth. I'm not going to say that I was perfect and I didn't complain during this wilderness season. I'm still working on my mouth. Like, you know, your girl likes to talk. Your girl likes to voice every emotion. But I literally told God, if I felt like a complaint was going to come out of my mouth, I would just be quiet. And that's what I'm working on. Because the children of Israel spent way more time in the wilderness than they were supposed to because of their complaints. So my plea is to you is to keep complaining out of your mouth. And when you feel like complaining, worship. When you feel like complaining, just worship instead. Was taught that by Prophetess Tiffany Montgomery, that we should worship instead of worry. And I'm telling you, it works. It works to glorify God and all that he is, not just what he does for you, all that he is, his essence, his being, to worship who he is over voicing your complaints. God knows your problems. He knows what you care about. He knows what you care about. But he wants to know that you want to know him, that you want to know his character, that when he, as the shepherd, calls out, that you know his voice. That's what he wants to know. So I want to let you know that God provides manna in the wilderness, that you should worship instead of worry, and that your promised land is coming soon. I will say this. The reason that I feel like I'm not quite out of the promised land yet is because 2024 came in with a bang as well. My husband, unfortunately, was in a truck accident and his life was spared. Thank you, God. So that was a huge blow to us. Again, to start off 2024 with a truck accident. After 2023 started the same way. We're just like, okay, God, like, what are you trying to tell us here? We know, I know. I'm just seeking and praying that God will give my husband direction for what he wants to do, what he wants him to do. Also, my mother-in-law passed this month. And so it's been difficult. This weekend, I'm heading towards her funeral, or for her funeral, so we can lay her to rest. But it's just still so very hard. But I just, in the middle of this, at the tip of my heart is joy. I'm in pain. I'm grieving. I'm hurting. But I feel at the tip of my heart is joy. Because even despite all of this, I still trust God. I still trust him. So that's my plea to you, is that trust God. Even though it's hard, even though you're going to have rough seasons, even though you're going to be walking through the wilderness, trust God, because I know I'm coming out on the other side. And as soon as I do, I will let y'all know exactly what God has done. And I'll be singing, "See What the Lord Has Done." So y'all stay tuned. There will be more videos coming soon. I guess I'll just be, I'll be keeping you guys posted. Love you guys. Bye.